My name is Camille Laurent. I'm 32 years old. 3 months ago, my sister lifted a champagne glass in front of 200 wedding guests and said, "Let's hope Camille's boyfriend sticks around longer than the last one. She's a bit temporary." People laughed, not loudly, not cruelly, just enough. And that was the moment I stopped pretending it didn't bother me. But what happened 90 minutes later, under the same chandelier, with the same microphone, changed how my family introduces me forever. Before I tell you how her wedding toast turned into something no one at that venue expected, take a second to like and subscribe. But only if stories about family humiliation, quiet revenge, and emotional power shifts resonate with you. And tell me where you're watching from. I read those. Now let me take you back to why she chose that word. Temporary. Because words like that don't appear out of nowhere. They're curated. My sister Isabel has always needed a spotlight. Not desperately, strategically. She doesn't raise her voice. She adjusts the room. Older by 2 years, she was the polished one. Debate team captain. Prom queen. Law school by 24. I was the creative one. Marketing degree. Freelance consultant. Independent contracts instead of corner offices. Our parents loved us both, but they admired her. There's a difference. Admiration sounds like, she's so driven. She knows what she wants. Isabel always lands on her feet. When my long-term relationship ended at 29, mutual, adult, respectful. Isabel called it instability. Camille gets bored easily, she'd say at dinner. When I left a corporate marketing job to start consulting independently, she called it phase energy. "You're always pivoting," she'd laugh. Pivoting. Interesting word. When Isabel changed firms twice in 3 years, it was called advancement. When I changed industries, it was called wandering. There's a pattern in families like mine. The bold sibling is visionary. The adaptive sibling is unstable. And temporary became her shorthand for me. Isabel's wedding was theatrical. Not tacky, just calculated. Historic ballroom downtown. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids hanging from gold arches, 200 guests, judges, partners, political donors, family friends who wore black tie like it was muscle memory. I wore navy silk, simple, structured, no sequins, no statement, just presence. My boyfriend, Adrian, stood beside me, 6 months in, quiet, intelligent, patient, not flashy, which, in my family, translates to unproven. The ceremony was elegant, the vows carefully written, the applause long, the reception curated, every toast pre-approved, except one. Isabel insisted on improvising. "She's always better off script," my mother said proudly. That should have worried me. It didn't. Not until the microphone shifted. It was 8:42 p.m, champagne refilled, laughter warm, music low. Isabel stood near the sweetheart table, glass raised, smile precise. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," she began. Standard, safe. Then she shifted. "And of course, thank you to my sister Camille." The room turned slightly. Attention focused, for always teaching me what not to do. Light laughter, polite. I smiled, because reacting too early makes you dramatic. "She's fearless," Isabel continued. "New careers, new cities, new boyfriends." More laughter. Adrian's hand tightened slightly around mine. I didn't look at him. I looked at her. Still smiling, still composed. "And let's hope this one lasts longer," she added lightly. Camille tends to be temporary. There it was. Temporary. Not loud. Not screamed, just inserted, like garnish. The room laughed, some nervously, some genuinely. My father chuckled lightly. My mother shifted in her seat. Adrian didn't move. And I didn't flinch, because here's what she wanted. A reaction. A visible crack. Proof that I was unstable. Temporary. Emotional. Instead, I raised my glass back at her, smiled, and held it there, which unsettled her more than tears would have. Because composure in humiliation looks like strategy. The DJ resumed the music. The room recalibrated. Guests returned to conversation. But whispers ripple differently when they start from a microphone. Temporary. I heard it twice near the bar. She's always changing things. Commitment issues. Optics spread fast. Adrian leaned close. You okay? He asked quietly. Yes. You don't look angry. I'm not. You should be. No, because anger would confirm narrative. I didn't need to confirm anything. I needed to reposition. At 9:18 p.m., the best man approached me. I'm sorry about that, he said. About what? The comment. It was a joke, he hesitated. Not really. Interesting, because sometimes the room understands before the family does. I looked across the ballroom. Isabel was glowing. Center of gravity. Controlled. She thought the word landed and dissolved. It didn't. It settled. And what she didn't know was that the venue contract required one final announcement before the night ended, one the bride traditionally makes, but the groom could delegate. And at 10:12 p.m., under the same chandelier where she called me temporary, the microphone would shift again. Not to insult, not to attack, but to clarify something she hadn't calculated. Because temporary isn't defined by relationship length, it's defined by leverage. And the leverage that night wasn't romantic, it was structural. And Isabel had underestimated who actually controlled the closing announcement. The ballroom lights dimmed slightly at 10:07 p.m., that soft golden wash that signals the last official toast of the evening. In most weddings, this part is sentimental. Thank you speeches, vendor acknowledgements, a final romantic flourish. But at Isabel's wedding, nothing was accidental. The event schedule had been emailed to guests earlier that week. Isabel's assistant made sure of that. There was one final announcement listed at 10:10 p.m. Family recognition and closing dedication. Traditionally, the bride closes. But Isabel didn't plan every detail herself. She delegated. And the venue required that the person who signed the final vendor clearance form approve the closing acknowledgement. Isabel signed most things, but not everything. The person who signed the payment release? Adrian. Because Isabel's father had insisted someone responsible co-sign the final balance. Adrian happens to be a corporate attorney. Detail-oriented, precise, not flashy, not loud, not temporary. And Isabel didn't calculate that he reads contracts twice. At 10:12 p.m., the DJ lowered the music. Before we close tonight, he announced, we have one final acknowledgement. Isabel reached instinctively for the microphone, but the DJ didn't hand it to her. He turned instead toward Adrian, because that's what the clearance sheet instructed. Final recognition to be delivered by co-signatory. Isabel blinked, just once. Adrian stepped forward calmly, not rushed, not dramatic. He took the microphone. The room quieted. 200 guests leaned in. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. Polite applause, standard. Then he shifted. I want to take a moment to thank someone specific. Isabel smiled again. She assumed it was her. It wasn't. Camille, Adrian said clearly, turning toward me. The room pivoted. Thank you for introducing me to this family. Polite chuckles. Not laughter, just attention. You've always been the one who builds quietly, he continued. Interesting word. Builds. You taught me that permanence isn't about staying still, he said evenly. It's about staying intentional. The room stilled. No one laughed. Because this wasn't defensive. It was precise. And for anyone wondering, he added lightly, temporary is only a label when you're not paying attention. A few murmurs. Not chaotic. Just unsettled. Isabel's smile tightened slightly. You've shown me what stability looks like, Adrian finished, his eyes steady on me. And I'm not going anywhere. There it was. Not loud. Not confrontational. Just correction. The applause that followed wasn't explosive. It was recalibrated. Because public framing changes tone. Isabel took the microphone immediately after. Her voice was polished, controlled. Thank you, Adrian, she said. No correction, no joke, no doubling down. Just a smooth transition to music. But the air had shifted. The word temporary no longer floated freely. It had context. As the DJ resumed dancing tracks, whispers moved differently. Not about my instability, about the exchange. Was that intentional? Did you hear what he said? She shouldn't have said that earlier. Interesting. Because humiliation is only funny when it lands without resistance. Resistance reframes. I walked toward the bar. Adrian met me halfway. You didn't tell me you were doing that, I said quietly. You didn't tell me she was going to, he replied. Fair. You could have ignored it. I could have. Why didn't you? He looked at me steadily. Because silence would have agreed. There it was. Agreement. Temporary becomes permanent if you let it. And I hadn't. At 10:47 p.m., Isabel cornered me near the coat check. You planned that, she said softly. No! You knew he would say something. I didn't. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You're enjoying this. No! You didn't react when I joked. I didn't need to. You think that made you stronger. It made me stable, she exhaled sharply. It was harmless. No! It was a joke. No! It's my wedding. And I didn't interrupt it. Silence. You're being dramatic, she said quietly. Interesting. That word again. Dramatic. The fallback label. I smiled. I replied evenly. You weaponized composure. There it was. Weaponized composure. Because calm in public humiliation feels threatening. You underestimated the room, I said. Silence. And you underestimated me. That landed. Not loud. Not cruel. Just accurate. Later that night, as guests filtered out and staff began clearing tables, my mother approached me. She shouldn't have said that, she admitted quietly. She didn't think it would matter, I replied. It did. Yes. Silence. My father nodded once. You handled it well. Not praise. Recognition. Which, in our family, is rarer. In the car on the way home, Adrian glanced at me. You're not angry, he said. No, you're not hurt. I was, and now? I'm clear. Because here's what Isabel didn't understand. Temporary wasn't about my relationships. It was about her comfort with positioning me beneath her. That positioning ended the moment the microphone shifted. Public framing changes hierarchy, and that hierarchy would shift again 3 weeks later, when the local charity board announcement came out. Because Isabel's law firm wasn't the only one expanding. And the partner vote that month would include a name she hadn't considered. And that's when temporary would become something else entirely. 3 weeks after the wedding, the city's legal bulletin went live at 7:02 a.m. Most people don't read it. Judges do. Partners do. Non-profits do. And families who care about status do. The subject line read, Board appointment and partnership expansion. Marshall and Vale Consulting. Vale. Not Laurent. Not Reed. Vale. My last name. My firm. I had started Marshall and Vale 2 years earlier with a colleague from a previous contract. Compliance advisory. Risk audits. Private equity structuring. Not flashy. Not televised. But profitable. And 3 months prior to Isabel's wedding, we had finalized negotiations to merge with a larger advisory network. Partnership vote scheduled. Board appointment pending. I hadn't announced it. Because unlike Isabel, I don't preview achievements before they settle. At 7:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. Isabel. You're on the board? She asked immediately. Yes. And partner? Yes. Silence. You didn't say anything. I wasn't ready to. You've been planning this. Yes. For how long? 18 months. Silence. You let me stand there and call you temporary, she said quietly. Yes. And you didn't defend yourself. No. Why? Because I didn't need to. Silence. You always do this, she muttered. Do what? Wait. Yes, I wait, because waiting looks passive, until it isn't. By 9:23 a.m., the partnership announcement was circulating. Marshall and Vale had secured 3 municipal contracts, including advisory oversight on public development zoning. The same zoning board Isabel's firm had unsuccessfully bid on last year. That detail wasn't in the press release, but it was in the industry emails. At 11:02 a.m., our mother called. You're on the board? Yes. And partner? Yes. You never told us. I wasn't ready. Silence. I thought you were freelancing. I was. That's not what this looks like. No. It looks permanent. Interesting word. Permanent. Yes, I said evenly. It is. Silence. You've always been quiet about your work, she added. Yes, and we underestimated it. There it was. Not accusation. Admission. That afternoon, Isabel showed up at my office, unannounced. which she rarely does. She prefers curated meetings, not spontaneous ones. She stood in the doorway, polished, composed, but not entirely steady. "You're merging into municipal advisory?" she asked. "Yes! You know my firm lost that bid." "Yes!" Silence. "You didn't say anything. It wasn't relevant. It feels relevant." "Why?" Silence. "Because you're not small," she said. There it was. Not temporary, not unstable, not dramatic, not small. "No," I replied calmly. "I'm not." She looked around the office. The glass walls, the framed certifications, the compliance awards on the shelf. "You've built something," she said. "Yes." And I laughed. "Yes." Silence. She didn't apologize immediately. Isabel doesn't move quickly toward vulnerability. She calibrates. "You made me look careless," she said quietly. "No," I replied evenly. "You did. That landed. Not cruel, not loud, just clear." "You didn't need to humiliate me back," she added. "I didn't. That microphone. I didn't write his speech. You didn't stop him. I didn't need to." Silence. "You're not angry," she said again. "No, you're not defensive. No, you're not competing. No," she exhaled slowly. "That's what unsettles me, because she competes, she positions, she frames. And when someone refuses to enter the arena, it destabilizes the arena." "You always thought I was chasing," I said quietly. "Yes, I wasn't. What were you doing?" "Building." Silence. "And you built bigger," she admitted. "Different," I corrected, because bigger implies hierarchy. Different implies autonomy. That evening, at a charity gala Isabel regularly attends, someone congratulated her on her sister's board appointment. "She's impressive," they said lightly. Not mocking, not teasing. Impressive. The word traveled, not because I announced it, because records exist. Titles exist, appointments exist, and when the city printed my name as partner and advisory board member, temporary no longer fit. 3 months ago, she lifted a champagne glass and called me temporary. Tonight, people lifted glasses and called me permanent, not because of revenge, because of consistency. And consistency compounds. When I got home that night, Adrian was waiting. "You saw?" he asked. "Yes, you're not celebrating. I am." "You don't look excited. I'm steady." He smiled slightly. "That's your version of celebration." "Yes." Silence. "Does it feel like you won?" he asked. "No. What does it feel like?" Like I stopped shrinking. And that's what it was always about. Not a wedding toast, not a board appointment, not a microphone correction. It was about refusing the narrative that I was unstable, temporary, small. And the irony? Isabel's marriage lasted 9 months. Mine? Isn't measured by optics, it's measured by intention. Because temporary isn't about relationships, it's about identity. And I was never temporary. I was just building quietly. If you've ever been labelled something small in a room full of people, tell me in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Temporary is a label people use when they don't understand your process. Some people build loudly. Some people build strategically. The loud ones get applause. The steady ones get permanence. You don't have to react publicly to humiliation. You don't have to defend yourself in the moment. You don't have to shrink to keep the room comfortable. Composure isn't weakness. Silence isn't defeat. And stability isn't small. The real power shift happens when you stop proving your worth and let your results speak louder than their labels. If this story resonated with you and you want more powerful family drama like this, make sure you subscribe.